how Ukraine turned Russia's own territory into a logistics nightmare. Russia sent 110,000 soldiers into the Kursk region. Not to hold it, not to defend it, to use it. Kursk was the artery, the single beating vein connecting Russia's entire southwestern military apparatus to the front. Fuel moved through it. Ammunition moved through it. Reinforcements, spare parts, food, medical supplies, everything an army of 110,000 men needs to stay alive. And fighting passed through this corridor every single day. And Ukraine knew it. What followed was not a frontal assault. It was not a dramatic armored breakthrough or a headline-grabbing offensive push. It was something far more dangerous. A systematic, methodical, surgical strangling of the one thing a modern army cannot survive without: its supply line. The artery. To understand what Ukraine did in Kursk, you first have to understand what Kursk actually was. Russia's Luhansk axis was consuming resources at a terrifying rate. Over 1,000 tanks, hundreds of artillery systems, thousands of armored vehicles, all of them burning fuel by the hour, all of them firing ammunition by the minute, all of them needing food, spare parts, and medical support every single day. An army of this size consumes approximately 3,000 tons of supplies per day. That is roughly 80 to 100 railway wagons worth of material, moving constantly, just to keep the machine running at baseline. Not advancing, not fighting, just existing. And every gram of it passed through the Kursk rail network. The railway lines running south from Kursk connected at Luhansk and then extended further to Mariupol, Berdyansk, and all the way down to Crimea, like the main artery in a body. The single line connecting the heart to every extremity. Cut it anywhere along its length, and the whole organism starts to fail. Russia understood this vulnerability. It had to. So it built protection around the artery. Panzer S-1 and Tor M2 air defense systems were deployed at critical junctions. Fuel trains moved during the day and were unloaded at night under blackout conditions. Camouflage netting was pulled over depot positions. Krasuka 4 and Pol 21 electronic warfare systems were placed at rail junctions specific to jam GPS signals. Supply points were not fixed. The same depot changed location every 3 to 5 days, deliberately rotating to avoid pattern detection. On paper, the protection looked comprehensive. In practice, it had one fatal flaw. Russia could hide depots from satellites. It could jam GPS. It could move supply points on a rotation schedule. But it could not hide them from the people who walked past them every morning. The network inside the network, the Atesh partisan network, is not well understood in the West. It does not operate with weapons or uniforms. It operates in cell structure, decentralized, compartmentalized, functioning under occupation like nerve endings distributed through a body. Individual agents with no knowledge of each other. Information flowing upward in one direction only. When Russia moved a depot, an Atesh agent noted the new location and passed it to the SBU. When Russia deployed a Panzer system at a new junction, its coordinates were recorded within hours. When Russia installed electronic warfare equipment at a rail crossing, its frequency signature was cataloged. A camouflage net can hide a depot from a satellite 400 kilometers overhead. It cannot hide it from someone who walks past it on the way to work. When the SBU's Donetsk-Luhansk intelligence officers combined Atesh field source data with satellite imagery and signals intelligence, Russia's entire protection architecture became transparent, not partially, entirely. Wherever a Panzer was deployed, its coordinates were known. Wherever Krasuka was operating, its frequency was already recorded. The protection Russia had spent months building was rendered useless before a single drone launched. Targets identified, coordinates confirmed. Now it was the strike platform's turn. The instrument Firepoint 2 is not a weapon that announces itself. A 105-kilogram warhead, 200-kilometer range. It does not depend on GPS. It runs signal-silent, autonomous navigation, which means Krasuka and Pol 21 electronic warfare systems. The very systems Russia positioned specifically to jam incoming drones have no effect on it. It flies at low altitude, treetop level, staying beneath the detection threshold of Panzer and Tor radars. A composite body and small radar cross-section reduce its signature further, and its thermal and night vision targeting is critical for one specific reason. A fuel depot under blackout conditions is invisible to the naked eye, but its heat signature at night is unmistakable. The hotter the target, the clearer the picture. Firepoint 2 produces approximately 200 units per day across more than 50 distributed manufacturing sites. Even if Russia struck one factory, and it tried, production would not stop. The network has no single point of failure. Unit cost $50,000. Russia's imported Shahed drone cost $150,000, 3 times more expensive, slower, dependent on Iranian supply chains that stretch across 3 continents and are subject to their own strategic disruptions. Ukraine could sustain a rate of fire that Russia structurally could not match. And it was about to demonstrate exactly what that asymmetry looked like in practice. On the night of May 23rd, the SBU and Ukraine's unmanned systems forces struck 5 critical logistics nodes simultaneously: fuel trains, ammunition depots, drone repair bases, communications infrastructure, troop staging areas. 5 targets. One night. Same minute. This is operationally far more complex than it sounds. The 2 most distant targets on the strike list were 80 kilometers apart. Both had to be reached at exactly the same moment. Drones had to launch from different bases. Flight durations had to be calculated to minute-level precision. Every drone in the strike package had to arrive at its designated target inside the same narrow window, like an orchestra conductor. Each instrument enters at a different moment, but they all meet on the same note. This level of coordination does not happen by accident. It is run by the Deep Strike Command Center, established in early 2026. Real-time intelligence, target approval, and strike execution unified under one roof. The architecture existed specifically to make operations like this possible. The results were immediate and documented. The fuel depot in Luhansk struck. The ammunition depot in Kadivka struck. The drone repair base in Bilohorivka struck. Multiple heat sources visible on commercial satellite imagery over Luhansk within minutes. Over 80 Russian casualties reported by the SBU. The scale of the fires made concealment impossible. You press 5 points at the same time with 5 fingers. Each one hurts simultaneously. Point defense systems. The very Panzers and Tors Russia had positioned to protect this network were forced to split their attention. A goalkeeper cannot save 5 penalties at the same time. The protection architecture failed, not because it was poorly designed, because it was designed for a different kind of threat. The message from Olgov, one day after the May 23rd strikes: Ukraine jumped to Russian territory itself. In Kursk's Olgov district, 2 drones struck a freight train carrying propane tankers. The resulting gas explosion created a massive column of fire above the town. The blast was heard several kilometers away. 76 civilians were evacuated. Governor Keinstein was forced to issue a public statement, something the Kremlin works hard to avoid when Ukrainian strikes hit domestic territory. The damage was too large to conceal. Olgov is not a random town. It is the key transfer point on the railway running south from Kursk, sitting 60 to 70 kilometers behind what Russia had designated as its safe rear area. A significant portion of the fuel and ammunition